Good morning. So my name is Stefan Price. I'm a props and special effects artist. I run a company called Roundtable Productions. My background is I have a degree in mechanical engineering and I have a degree in theater as well. I started out in the film and television industry, and then I started working more and more and doing stuff for the theme parks. Um, you guys were talking today about they asked me to talk to you guys today about finance and sort of how to kind of think about your future career. When I started out as an apprentice working for a company, and that was a big boost to my career. I wanted to work in special effects and do film and television, and but I kind of had a bit of a jump start in that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Um, I knew I wanted to do film. I knew I wanted to do special effects. I knew I wanted to do props, and that gave me kind of a bit of a focus. And sometimes, like I know when I talked to my wife didn't have as clear a picture. She didn't know what she wanted to do specifically as a career. She just knew she was going to go to college, and she didn't have as much kind of career goals as I did, and sort of that made a difference. It made it a little bit easier for me to kind of hyper specialize and focus on the kind of skills and the kind of job opportunities that I was looking for. Um, so uh, it can be different for different people. It was easy for me to know what I wanted to do, and I could just kind of go for every opportunity that presented itself. Um, I know that there are certain things that I wish I knew when I was getting started, and I'm gonna try to share some of those thoughts with you guys today. Um, are you guys all seniors? I can see there's definitely high school. Um, how many people are thinking about going to college? Raise your hands. Great. How many people are thinking, not sure about going to college? Not sure whether they want to go to college? Got it. Great. So I can tell you that you know I have mixed feelings about college. Which is funny because I have 2 degrees, but I think college is really a really useful. It's a really useful thing, both for your resume, but also for for life experience. Um, I know I learned something about college, that there are people that went to college that I went to college with that just went to college because they were told, well, that's your next step. You go through 12 years of school, and then when you graduate high school, the next step is you go to college, and you feel like like you're kind of told it's a sort of a conveyor belt, that once you fall off the end of that conveyor belt, off the end of the other side of college, you'll just fall right into a career and it'll all work out. And and I've sort of learned that when you get out of college, what you put into it. I went to college because there were certain skills I wanted to kind of learn more about and kind of perfect, and and the classes that I focused on with interest and passion, those are the ones that I still remember. Those pieces of information today that are useful in my career. I know that there are a lot of opportunities out there that, if you know what you're interested in, then there's a lot of value in going to a college, but also there's a lot of technical schools out there now. There's a number of them that I know, and I've got colleagues and friends who went through or work at things like technical schools that'll teach you how to be proficient in things like welding or mechatronics, which is programming and servicing CNC machines and things like that. And there's a lot of different kind of skill sets out there that are in high demand. Um, and like I said, it's kind of like college, and like what I said about college, you get out of it what you put into it. Uh, I knew what I wanted to do, so I was really passionate about it, and it meant that I put a lot of energy into the things that I was learning about because I knew what I wanted to do with those skill sets. Um, and it really helped kind of guide me. And I know, like I said, it was really interesting that My wife had a completely kind of different experience. She didn't know what she was interested in specifically, and she went and got a degree, and she didn't really have a clear kind of idea of what that was going to be. But now we both run our company together, and it's really kind of a change for her. She's got a clear focus. We know what we do. We're professional artists, which is a complicated career to have chosen, because it means that we're our own bosses. It means we have to be self-driven. We have to get up every day. Nobody is telling us be at work at a certain time, which is why I was a couple minutes late getting to you guys today, because I completely slept in. So so I apologize for that. But it means that we have to get up every day, and we have to be self-motivated. I've got to always look for the next job myself. It means that I've got to set my own hours, but it also means that I have kind of that freedom. Personally, I've worked for other people before. I really like having my own company personally. I worked freelance for a number of years. It did mean I was kind of a little bit at the subject to other people's time frames. That I had to be there when they said. But over the years, it has allowed me to, when I take on a project, as long as I meet my deadlines and get my work done, I get to kind of set my own hours for the most part. It does mean that from time to time I'm working a 24-hour shift, trying to get something done, trying to build a thing for Disney or Universal that is just got to get done. And the only way to get it done is that I'm not going to be sleeping tonight. So like yesterday, my friend and I, who works for me, we worked a 12-hour day. We're going to work another long day today because we're trying to get these items done. We're building some pirate cannons. They're T-shirt cannons for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down in Tampa. They need to get done today, so that way they can get moved on to the next stage and get delivered this week. So we worked a long day yesterday. We're gonna work another long day today, and it's just kind of the nature of the project. And then once that's done, I have other projects, and I can kind of come and go as I please. That freedom comes, with a kind of a price of, I don't know what the next project is going to be exactly, and I've always got to be looking for the next thing. But that's kind of the lifestyle that fits my, my kind of style of working on projects. Some people like a little bit more structure, and they like the 9 to 5, and it's got its benefits. You don't have to worry about things as much, but it's kind of what works for me. So my background, like I said, is started working in film and television, but now most of the stuff I do is custom fabrication for the theme parks. I still do a bit of film and television. I just did a TV show called The Right Stuff, which is filming right now at Universal Studios. It's about the early NASA Mercury program leading up to Apollo. And it's a famous book, and it's getting made into a TV series for National Geographic. And I did some special effects for them, but I'm building props. I just finished up some stuff for Universal Studios, going to the new Beijing China park, and then I built stuff for the Disney Galaxy's Edge parks that open up in California and here in Florida. So I got to build some fun Star Wars props earlier this year, and so it's kind of, you can see it's kind of never the same thing twice for me. But if you guys have any questions about what I do and what I make and how I kind of made it work, that might be interesting to you, you guys can go ahead and ask me some questions. I can see hands raised, and I think we could probably get the microphones. I can't hear any noise, but I'm sure
Yeah, I'll go ahead and unmute Mr. Dorda's class real quick, so you guys should be able to talk now. I think we can hear you.
Good?
Yep.
All right. What type of friends and what type of people you surround yourself in college? What type of people did he surround himself in college?
Oh, what kind of people did I work with in college? Well, for me, what you find in college, kind of, when you choose a so when you choose a major and you go to college, first they're going to start you out in, and you guys may know this or not, but they're going to start you out in classes which are your kind of basic core competency requirement classes. They're going to take history, you're going to take some writing classes. There's a certain number of classes that just everyone has to take. So you're in there with a bunch of different people from all different. You're going to be in there with education majors, and you're being there with engineering majors and chemistry majors, and you're all kind of grouped into a big giant class, much larger than the class sizes you guys are used to right now. You'll be, if depending on the university you go to. If you go to a smaller school, I started out at Valencia Community College, which is here in Central Florida. It's got a really great reputation. It just was sort of a better fit, partly because they had a really great film program. So I went to that first. So it wasn't quite as giant, but you'll be in some classes sometimes with 50 to 100 students in these starting out classes. So you're kind of mixed in with a bunch of everybody. But then as you move along in your course, your courses are going to start to be more specialized in whatever field you chose. So for me, it was mechanical engineering. Well, for me, it started out in film. So I was grouped into classes with people that were the same major as me. So you kind of tend to get clustered in with people that at least have a similar interest. So I hung out with a lot of film and television, kind of aspiring majors. And then later when I switched to mechanical engineering, it was a lot of mechanical engineering majors. But then I worked in the field that I worked in. I was working in film and television as well while I was going to college. But that was difficult because I was a kid, and a lot of the people I was working with were a lot older, and it was a bit of a challenge sometimes to have free time for me personally because I was going to college and working in a career. But I still hang out with some of my friends from high school. Actually, my main fabricator that works for my company is my best friend that I met in the 10th grade, and we just stayed friends. And as I sort of went freelance and started doing my own projects, he'd helped me build things here and there over the years, and he came to work for me part-time, and then ended up now he works for me full-time. So sometimes the people that I hang out with are colleagues that work in the field I work in, and then I have a few friends that still, like I said, still to this day from high school. My friend didn't have any interest in being a fabricator for the theme parks per se, but he just sort of naturally ended up working for me kind of over the years, and now we get to work together every single day. So I get to work with my best friend from high school, which is pretty cool.
We have a question from Osceola High School. They want to know what they would like to know what the hardest thing was that you ever made.
Gotcha. Is that Osceola High School in Kissimmee?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well that's where I went to high school. That's where I was living when I was in high school. So that's funny that came back around. But the hardest thing that I've ever made is kind of a hard question to answer, because for me it's never the same thing twice. I'll tell you, one of the harder things I made this year was just about a couple months ago. I had to build a life-sized elephant puppet. So what we did is we built a steel framework, and then we coated it in a fabric that looked like kind of a wrinkly elephant skin, and it ended up being two performers on stilts, so two stilt walkers. Inside of the elephant, there was a third performer that was underneath the head holding it up with a pole, and then a fourth performer that was kind of manipulating the trunk out front. So there were four actors that were manipulating this puppet, and it actually walked around, and it was a life-sized male elephant, and it had to interact with the audience and walk around in a space. And it was a huge, complicated project, trying to figure out how to make the legs move so that way when the puppeteers pulled the lever, they could actually make the leg move and bend at the proper joints in the proper way, and getting the articulation right, getting the ears to move and everything like that as they walked around. And it was all for a dinner that took place in Texas for one night. It was a one-time use thing. It was a huge project. We had about a dozen people working on it, and it was just a one-time use thing, but it was really complicated to figure out all the mechanics and to get it done on time. And we that was one of those projects where the last 3 days I didn't sleep but a couple of days, and then it had to get done so tightly to the deadline that the last minute, we finished at 2 o'clock in the morning. I packed a bag and jumped in the truck with my client, and we drove to Texas together so I could be there to make sure that it all got put together, the final pieces, because there just wasn't time to test it out. So I ended up going to Texas the last minute, and that's kind of the nature of what I do, that I've got to get it done, like I said. And so it means that sometimes I just got to pack a bag and jump in a truck and go to Texas for the weekend. So that was a really complicated project. But I do a lot of different things where we're doing a lot of work where we'll integrate traditional techniques and new stuff. So we've got a lot of sculpting and carpentry and leather work and metal work, a lot of welding, and then I'll incorporate that with CNC, which is computer controlled cutting, 3D printing, laser cutting, and we incorporate all of those different elements in everything that I make. So so a lot of times the complicated stuff is trying to balance what technique to use and what kind of project. So it's always kind of something different. I see some more hands. Who's got another question?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unmute. Looks like Mr. Porter's calling in. Where's that going?
There.
There you go.
Okay, so what drove you to want to make your own company rather than just work the 9-to-5 job, and how did you get to become so big?
So for me, the choice to want to do my own company kind of came in that I wanted to build the things that I like to build, and that's like I said, it's never the same thing twice. So I built props for Star Wars earlier this year for Disney World, and then we were building props for the new Harry Potter area going into the Beijing China Park in Universal Studios. Then we built a life-size elephant, and we built cannons for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then we built, I can't even think of half the things we've built this year. And that is a creative challenge and a technical challenge that I relish, I look forward to. I like being the guy that's sort of the problem solver for difficult projects. There's a lot of different companies out there that do a lot of interesting things, but I always liked being involved in every stage of the process, everything from design to the fabrication. I like being the person that is able to weld up the frame and then sculpt on the skin and then do all the finished painting. I mean, and I work with a team of artists. I've got people that come in and work with me. And so I'm not doing everything all by myself. I definitely like working with a team of people in a collaborative, creative way. But I like being involved in every single stage of the process. And there's so much in the industry of working, whether in film or or in the theme parks, where there are people that they are just painters, or they are just sculptors, or they're just welders, or they're just a manager and they never build anything. They just get to sit in an office and draw up designs in the computer and hand them off. I like to be involved in every stage of that process. And so by having my own company, I get to do that. I did have a larger crew that used to work for me. I had up to about 15 plus crew artists, different kind of skill sets that used to work for me. And I didn't really care for it because I ended up managing people more than building the things. So over the years, I grew bigger and bigger, and then I actually scaled slowly back down. And most days it's just my friend and I in the shop, and then my wife who helps me run the company. And then like when we worked on the elephant puppet I mentioned, I had about a dozen extra fabricators, different artists, skill sets that came in and helped me work on it. And then when we were done with the project, they went back to freelancing or working for other jobs or being independent artists themselves. So it's a lot more fun for me now because I get to pick and choose the people I work with. They get to be really talented, skilled people. I can't keep them on 24/7, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, full time, like I used to have a big crew of people. But I find that I'm able to kind of pick and choose better projects. I'm able to specialize in the things that I like to do. When I had a large crew, I found it kind of frustrating because I always had to kind of look for something to keep people busy with. And in the industry with custom fabrication, it's hard to do for what we do for building stuff for the theme park. So we're always having to go after like, okay, well, we need to build 5,000 crates and barrels, and that just wasn't the kind of work that interests me. And we could make money on it, but I don't do what I love to do to make money. I've got to make a living and I've got to make money, but I do what I do because I like building things and I like solving problems and I like telling stories with props and set pieces. And I like solving technical challenges, and so now I get to I make as much money as I used to when I had a big crew, but now I hyper focus on specialized niche jobs where people are looking for something really unusual and really complicated, and now I get to hire a kind of a smaller, more elite crew, and I find that I like that better rather than trying to just grow bigger and bigger. Some companies grow bigger and bigger, and you can grow for growth's sake, but you're not actually growing in a healthy way, in a way that fits, you know, the kind of culture that you want to create. So the corporate culture I wanted to create was, you know, like I said, building these hyper focused things, but to kind of offset that extra, you know, to make extra money, what I do is I diversify. So I build stuff for the theme parks, but now I've built up a big workshop, and I transition to, rather than hiring a ton of people, I hire contractors to come in and work on a job project per project basis. And then I actually have a whole warehouse of my workshop, because I've got a couple of buildings that I rent out space to other fabricators. So I've got a company that is a group of carpenters, cabinetry makers. There's some other people that do different things, and I rent out space in one of my buildings for them to have their workshops. So I get a little bit of rental income there. And then my wife and I create our own personal artwork that we go out and we sell both online, and we go out to shows, art shows and comic conventions and things like that, and sell our artwork. So I've replaced a larger company by having multiple revenue streams, where more and more my wife and I plan is to try to control more of our own content. I love building stuff for Disney and Universal Studios, but when I build a prop for Universal Studios, I get paid for that prop once. If I create a art piece, a toy, a collectible, a thing, then that is my intellectual property, and I can sell that as many times as I want to. I could sell that, you know, till the end of my days, and even then beyond. You know, my family can benefit by continuing to sell that thing, because it's a creation that I made. And going into the future, I think whether you're a creative person or not, creating your own intellectual property, creating your own content is the future of huge amounts of opportunity available to you guys. Everything from, you know, I mean, if you look at it, a job that now exists that did not exist when I was in high school is being a YouTube content creator. Everything from people that make, you know, videos about how to do your makeup, to how to build a house, to how to weld, to, you know, innumerable different subjects. There are people that make careers off of making YouTube videos, because they can create videos, put them up online, and create you know, opportunities to get ad revenue. There are opportunities in creating content by designing things and getting them 3D printed without you guys ever having to own a 3D printer. Every single one of you has access to the internet, so you could create a 3D model, you could have it printed by a 3D printing company, and have it shipped to a customer without ever having to touch that product. These are all kind of opportunities for you guys to create content, whether you're into making toys and collectibles and you know, unusual things like I am, or whether you want to make design phone cases or home decor pieces. There are so many opportunities to start designing and creating your own things, whether you're into making videos or whether you're into building things. As you go forward, if you design a thing, you get to own that thing. Now, the window for, you know, being able to sell that may be limited. You know, maybe you make an iPhone case, and then the new iPhone comes out and that case is obsolete, and you got to design a new one. But you know, that's something that I'm trying to focus more on, is creating my own content, telling my own stories, because those are the opportunities that are going to continue to pay off for me time and time again, in a way that I can invest in myself. And I'll still build stuff for the theme parks from time to time. I love building stuff for Disney and Universal. I get to build Star Wars. I get to build Pirates of the Caribbean. I get to build Harry Potter. I get to build all the kind of movies that made me want to get into doing props and special effects. But now I've got, you know, like I said, secondary sources of revenue, like renting out space in my warehouse, like selling my items, selling my art pieces, and I can make money continually year after year off of selling my things rather than just making something once for somebody.
Unfortunately, that brings us to 8:55 when we're going to start having classes drop off because most of them are about to end. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you to the classes who joined. There is one final question if you would like to answer it really fast. Does your career in owning your business allow you to take vacations when you want, or are you constantly working?
Yes and no. I can set my own schedule as far as vacation times go, but it does make it really hard because if I'm not working, then you know, like there's no job to come back to unless I've set one up. So sometimes I can plan and schedule some projects ahead of time, but it also means that I have to be flexible when a job comes in. There have been times where we've had a trip planned and someone will call and say, hey, I need something built by next week. And we're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to skip this, you know, trip we were gonna make to go on a, you know, a vacation this weekend. But it does mean that I can kind of go on trips when I want to, but I don't get to take as many vacations because I don't have scheduled paid time off because I'm the one driving my career. So
All right.
it's a trade-off.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who had questions and joined us today. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And thank you, Stefan, for your time. And for some of the teachers, I'll see you guys again in about half an hour or an hour. Thank you.